Thank you, Adam, and I'm so glad to see you back. And also, you brought three more volunteers, So on June 4th, we'll be celebrating our Independence Day, and it's the second anniversary of the new federal state of China. Last year, we had a big celebration in New York, and then this year, some of us are still here in Medica, and so June 4th, as everybody recalls, that one man standing in front of the tank during the 1989 Tiananmen student movement. It was a bloody crackdown, and we lost many people's lives, but their lives are not gone in vain. We remember them just like the Holocaust memorial. We always remember the fallen heroes, and so we'll be celebrating our Independence Day, and so it's a new birth of the new Chinese Federation that represents the universal value with the Jewish people, with people from Israel, from other countries around the world, which is peace, freedom, democracy, and rule of law. And what comes to your mind when I tell you that we will have a Chinese Jerusalem or Chinese Israel that represents the symbol of freedom for all the Chinese people, not only inside China, but also outside of China?
I think it's possible. I mean, I remember the fall of the Soviet Union. It was around the same time as Tiananmen Square, and I think that's not a coincidence. I think the Communist Chinese were afraid this is going to happen. And why are they afraid? What are they afraid of? Freedom and democracy? You shouldn't be afraid of it. Look, the regime that is in charge has blood on its hands. And when you have blood on your hands, then you'll do a lot of things to stay out of jail, to not be held accountable. Yeah. And it's very clear that the Chinese authority today is afraid of being held accountable by the people. And the people, if they had a free and fair election, I'm sure would choose a free society, an open society. A stronger government is one that can tolerate dissent in their own country. And, the Chinese want to be respected in the world. The Chinese leadership today would gain respect if they respected human rights, if they granted political freedom. But until they do that, they're actually a weak country. It's you can have this big economy, but if you're forcing people to work, you have slave labor camps. You undermine other countries' economies with that. I mean, at some point we have to stand up. I think far too many U.S. politicians kowtow to China. And we've never really stood up to China when we should have. We should have been standing up to China in the 80s when it became abundantly clear that this dictatorship was not reforming, that it was snapping back to authoritarian, where people were disappearing and being murdered. But what did Bill Clinton do? He granted them most favored trade status, which they still have. I do think, though, we're in a new era since this war started, and if China was to make the mistake of attacking its neighbor, its province, they say, Taiwan, that this would lead to global sanctions, and it would lead to a disconnect of the economic ties. I hope that doesn't happen. I think it's important to maintain the economic ties, but somehow make it clear that we really want to see reforms, and maybe sanctions are the only way. I probably would support it. I think it would be actually good for American companies to stop relying on a corrupt regime. Totally, I do think how you make things matters. I work for a company that's a manufacturer, and I mentioned Dr. Bronner's, the soap company. We're really careful about where our raw materials come from, how they're produced. We only buy fair trade ingredients because we don't want to exploit anyone. We don't want labor to be it's child labor. It's a real problem in the world still. So I'm with you on this, but I do think change comes incrementally, unfortunately, and you're doing it here. You have really advanced this. I mean, on June 4th, I'm going to fly your flag if I can get one on my house in Washington, D.C. I really support what you're doing. So it's really nice to talk to you again.